Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this morning's Career-Puccino on the first Monday of spring here in the UK. So you're very, very welcome. Hopefully you have a cup of coffee ready to go for a quick 20-minute career boost for postdoc kind. So this is what I aim to do with my Career-Puccino. So my name is Emma Williams, and I've been working with early career researchers for over 20 years, scarily enough. And today's topic is something that I'm often asked about, and we are going to think about applying for fellowships and the 3 Ps. So what are the 3 Ps? So let me just share my screen just to keep me on track. Okay, so we're going to talk about the 3 Ps. If at any point, I'm just going to bring up my Q&A and my chat. Any questions at all, just pop them in the chat, probably easiest, or pop them in the Q&A, and I will attempt to answer them as we go along. So the 3 Ps are very, very simple, but they are the key ingredients in a fellowship application. And by a fellowship, I mean a personal research funding award. So someone is giving it to you as opposed to a research group. And quite often these are given to people in early stage of their career. So before they can apply for formal grants, they could apply for a fellowship because they can hold that in their own right. So it's tied up with the person. So the biggest P that it makes it different perhaps from a grant is that it is a focus on you as an individual. So the first P is person. The second P is project, without which you obviously wouldn't have an application. So we'll chat through things to mention on that one. And then the third P is place. Where are you going to host it? And out of all these, the place one sometimes feels like the little lost cousin in things, but is important to consider and to explain why you have chosen. So we're going to look at them in turn. I think that would make most sense. Don't forget that you can ask any questions as you go along, and you'd be most welcome to. Okay, so the first P is person. And we really need to focus on ourselves. This is very hard to do for most researchers because we don't naturally tell the world how great we are. It's not a normal thing. And we're very used to writing, certainly myself as a scientist, very collectively. So the science and research that I did was, a sum of parts. It was very much a team effort. And so we either talk in the third person or, we say it was done. But we tend not to say, I did this. However, for a fellowship, we need to put you front and centre. So I've got here, I am. You need to be excellent. So I am excellent. I am a potential world leader in. I have driven this forward. I have innovated this. I have initiated that. Lots and lots of I statements, which is really hard to write when you're first starting out on a fellowship. You need to indicate to the panel who will be judging your application your track record so far, and then your potential. And your track record so far will be as unique as you are, wonderful, wonderful early career researchers that you are. You will have done, anyone who's done a PhD has already done something unique. No one else did that PhD because that's the point of a PhD. And so what we're trying to do in the person bit is emphasize why you are the right person to be applying for this fellowship. And some of that will involve demonstrating how you match the funding call. So if it is for magnetic resonance imaging physicists, then, hey, I'm one of those. I match that bit. So you need to match the criteria of the funding call, but you also need to demonstrate why you are doing this fellowship as opposed to someone else. You have a unique set of skills, and those will be technical and personal, more leadership-y ones, but you will also have a unique background. So my background originally was in physics. I then moved into medical physics, and I suppose now I'm into research and development. So I'm not sure that's my trajectory. How we sell that is, again, up to us. So you might want to, for instance, emphasize parts of your history because they fit really nicely with the proposal that you're putting in. But what the panel really need to know is you as a person, you can deliver on this project. So you've got the relevant skills or experiences, or importantly, because quite often fellowships involve some training, you have the right people in place to give you those skills and experiences. So it might be that you are perhaps moving field slightly and you need to learn, I don't know, electron microscopy. You've put in place as part of your fellowship working with a great department and some great people who are going to help you learn that technique so that by the end of the fellowship, you're an even more complete researcher than you were to start with. So you've got your existing skills and experiences, you're going to learn electron microscopy, and then you're going to be able to do all sorts of new things. The other thing that people forget to talk about is any leadership experience that they've had. And this might not be formal. It very seldom is if we haven't had a managerial role. But you will have helped students along the way. You might have taught students. And again, that can be pivoted to sort of mentoring and leadership. You might have leadership in your discipline through reviewing or perhaps coming up with conference workshops, various other things. Think quite wide about what you bring to this fellowship and what the panel need to see. Basically, they've got a pot of money, little pot of gold, and they're going to give it to you if you can demonstrate that you are a safe pair of hands to deal with that money, that they are going to get not only new research out of this, but they are going to build you up ready to be an independent researcher. So ready to be, to hold a proper position in a university. So you're building up that academic track. So anything that you can have in your past that is relevant, that you can highlight, and anything that you know, like training and development that you're going to do, you need to put that in. In the UK, most researchers now have around 10 days personal development, and fellowships are trying to support this. So do make sure that you have outlined, firstly, how you're going to develop yourself, because a fellowship is a training time, how you can develop yourself, but also if you put in for staff, how you are going to develop them, or how you're going to nurture their development. Someone else might be running a course for them, but what are they going to be doing? So making sure that you've got that sort of past built in, fantastic person that you are, and also a hint of those trajectories. Don't forget your involvement in the wider scientific community. So if you've done reviewing, conferences, you're a member of learned bodies, etc., all that really cements you as a potential academic researcher. So don't forget to add those things in. The next P is project. And usually researchers are absolutely fine on the technical details of their project. They've given me a Gantt chart, which is one of those charts on the screen, you know, where you've got project 1 will take between 3 and 4 months, and then project 2 will be there and there and there. It's much more than that. Yes, the panel need to know that you have a clear project plan with clear deliverables. So I will publish in Science or Nature after 9 months, and then I will publish here and I'll publish here. I will go to these conferences throughout my fellowship. So they need a Gantt chart with clear milestones tied to output. So when are the publications going to come? When are the conference proceedings going to come? So all those things, absolutely, they need that. But they also need, and this is where people tend to dilute themselves, is why is it exciting? Why is it important? Why are you passionate about it? And these 3 Ps aren't standalone. They're wrapped in. They need to be constant threads throughout your application. So why is it important? Does it align with some national strategies or some global strategies? So the Sustainable Development Goals ring a bell. Or is it that tens of thousands of patients die of this particular disease a year and you're going to work towards a cure for that? You need to tell us why it's important. And this, I think, is why where researchers trip up, is that you've been in your field for a while. You kind of know why it's important and you know that you love it, but you have to tell us. You can't leave anything in a fellowship application written between the lines. You have to step us through. So when it comes to explaining why it's important, start with the human dimension. So, for instance, if it's patients, how many patients a year die? Is that 1 in 10? Is that 1 in 100? Give us some sort of way that we can interrogate your fellowship. The other thing that I think we need to bring out is your passion. So why are you interested in this? Quite often we're thinking, I'm writing a formal document, I can't possibly, convey my own excitement and passion, but it is a personal award. So you need to make sure that that comes across. So importance, relevance, and also timeliness of the project. You are going to be competing with other projects in probably a similar field, depending on which fellowship you apply for. All of those projects are going to be great. I'm glad I don't have to make those decisions, but you have to demonstrate to your funders that your project is the one that needs funding now, not in 2 years' time, but now. And this is why, because it's important. And this is why I'm great to do it, because I'm passionate about it and I've got the right skills and experiences and I'm eager to take it forward. Okay, so we've already got person and project very interlinked. So it's much more than a Gantt chart. You've then got the 3rd P, which is place. Okay. And this does boil down to location, location, location. If you're applying for a fellowship in a university that you have been at since age 18, and you're now 26, 27, 28, even older, you've been there a long time. Okay. My question as a panel member is, they're just trying to fund another postdoc by a different way. They just want to stay here. They don't want to develop their science. They're just very cozy I live near Cambridge, so they're very cozy in Cambridge. They don't want to move. What fellowship panels worry about is, firstly, is this money just extra funding for an academic boss who's trying to fund a postdoc via a different route? So it's not really this person's idea. It's just they've been asked to write a fellowship on their PI's behalf. That's not what fellowships are about, and funding bodies are really, really touchy about this. It has to be your idea, and it has to demonstrate that you want to be an independent researcher. And one of the best ways of proving independence is leaving home. So I've got 3 teenage sons, and 2 of them have left home to go to university. Whether they'll come back or not, I don't know. but they've proved their independence. They've gone off. They're living by themselves. They're feeding themselves, etc. That's what a fellowship panel wants to see, is like they're growing an academic to stand on their own 2 feet. Okay. And so if you stay in exactly the same place, they've got questions. If you have good answers to those questions, that is fine, but you have to state them. It might be very obvious to you that I have to stay here because they have the only, particle accelerator in the world that I can use. Okay, state that. If you have to do your research at a certain location because that is the only piece of kit in the world, then state that. That's fine. That's a good reason, but don't leave it understated. The other thing about host organizations is that for you, it might be an opportunity to expand your academic network, to try out other universities. It might be a chance to move overseas, if that's what you're looking for, or to just a different part of the country. So there is an opportunity tied into this location. But it does come back to you having a broad network where you can talk to someone at the University of Bristol, for instance, say, hey, this would be a great place to host my research. Would you be interested in hosting my fellowship? But you've already had those conversations in the past because they're in your network. You know them. You can approach them to ask about hosting. So with location, the sooner you can expand your academic network, the more choice you have of hosting, because you can approach people and say, I'm thinking of applying for Marie Curie. Would you be interested in hosting me? This is going to be my project. Okay, if you've already got those warm connections, it's going to be a much easier conversation. The other thing about location is do emphasize what else the location brings. So I do a lot of work for Imperial. Imperial have a fantastic postdoc and fellows development center, as do several other universities, but they provide training and development, especially for fellows. So that would be a good thing to highlight in the application. So thinking about what else the university or research institute can offer you as a potential fellow. So they might offer you some part share in a PhD student. They might offer you, kind of lots of computers or whatever it might be that you need, but they make sure that you're highlighting what the institution are bringing. The other thing is that people automatically assume that institutions will host. Hosting a fellow is quite costly to the institution, so that might not necessarily be the case. They're free to say no. Okay, so you've got your 3 Ps, but like I say, they need to be not just, I've talked about me, I've talked about my project, I've talked about the host. Weave them through. Okay, so these threads need to weave through. So when you're talking about the background to your research project, you need to emphasize your skills, or perhaps where that particular institution has expertise, so that they're coming into the project description. We've got those threads running through. When you talk about yourself, you want to emphasize your skills and experiences in relation to the project. Because it hopefully wouldn't happen without you. So these threads need to weave their way through. Okay, so don't just think of writing project in the methodology section and then talking about you in the CV personal history section. Think about weaving them through. Is there ways that I can develop and convince my panel throughout my application that I am the right person with the right project in the right place? That is all my info for you today. I'll have a wait for any couple of questions. If you need help with applying for a fellowship, then I do offer a personal application clinic. So just get in touch with me and I can tell you how that works. I also have a writing fellowship online course And again, just get in contact with me and I can link you through to those if those help. I'll have a swig of coffee while I wait for any questions.